For centuries we've thought of the Vedas as these grand cosmic texts, right? But what if I told you there was another one, a secret Veda, one that was whispered about, maybe even forbidden? One that didn't deal with the gods up in the heavens, but with the gritty, messy, real-world problems of just being human. Well, this is the story of the Atharvaveda. You could call it the Veda for the rest of us.
And that right there is the key. Life isn't always about these huge cosmic sacrifices. I mean, come on. Sometimes you've got a fever, or a broken bone, or, a broken heart. For that stuff, you needed a totally different kind of guide. A practical manual for survival.
So for a really long time, the official story, the official canon, was what's called the Trivedya, the triple science. And this was made up of 3 absolutely massive texts, each one with a very specific, very high-level job. But here's the thing, this so-called perfect trilogy had a huge, gaping blind spot. Okay, check this out, because this contrast is everything. You have the first 3 Vedas, the Rig, the Sama, the Yajur, and these were really for the gods. I'm talking about keeping the cosmos in balance, performing these huge elaborate rituals. But the missing piece, the piece they weren't talking about, that was a Veda for human-sized problems, for getting through the day, for, well, practical magic.
And you have to understand, the audience for that Elites trilogy, it was tiny, like ridiculously small. We're talking about the top 1%, the highly trained priests and the ruling class who could actually afford these massive ceremonies.
So, what about everybody else, right? What about the farmers, the soldiers, the merchants, the other 99% of the people? Their worries were way more immediate. They needed help and they needed it now. And this is the world that the 4th Veda was born into. All right, so let's finally meet the black sheep of the Vedic family, the Atharvaveda. Now, this wasn't some book of high-minded praise for the gods. No. This was a toolkit, a spell book, designed to solve the real problems of real people. And because of that, it was seen as, well, dangerous. It was controversial. And for a very long time, it was pretty much forbidden.
And this text, it has this absolutely fascinating duality to it. It's kind of split between 2 ancient family lines. On one side, you've got the Atharvan tradition. We're talking peaceful rites, healing, white magic. But on the other side, you have the Angiras tradition. And this is the dark stuff, terrible rites, sorcery, black magic to crush your enemies. It was a tool, and like any powerful tool, it could be used to build you up or to tear someone else down. Honestly, the best way to think about the Atharvaveda is as an ancient grimoire. Seriously, forget all the complex philosophy for a second. This is a recipe book. It's got recipes for creating protective amulets, for mixing love potions, and for reciting the exact words, the incantations, to get what you want. This was magic at its most practical.
But here's where this grimoire gets truly revolutionary, and its approach to medicine. I mean, long before we had any idea about germ theory, the Atharvaveda saw diseases totally differently. They weren't just symptoms. No. They were hostile beings, like demons, that had to be actively fought and literally banished from your body.
And this ER doctor analogy, it's perfect. It just nails its function. The other Vedas, they were like specialists, dealing with one big cosmic thing. The Atharvaveda, that was the emergency room. Snakebite, rival causing trouble at work, a raging fever. It didn't care about the grand scheme of things. It cared about fixing the crisis, right here, right now.
So how did this actually work? Let's take Talkman, the demon of fever, what we'd probably call malaria today. The approach was just brilliant. First, you give the enemy a name and a face, a yellow, trembling demon. Then you attack it on 2 fronts. You use pharmacology, actual cooling herbs, and at the same time, you use psychology, reciting these aggressive chants to literally drive the demon out. It's like a combined arms assault on an illness.
The Veda also used something we might call sympathetic magic, and the cure for jaundice is a fantastic example. It uses the power of color itself as a weapon.
So step 1 was to command the disease, the yellowness, to physically get out of the patient's body. The spell would try to transfer it into other yellow things, like the sun or yellow birds, even turmeric.
And then, to complete the ritual, you'd bring in the opposite. You cover the patient in red substances, the color of blood, of vitality, to command health and life to flood back in. It's this beautiful, symbolic, and deeply psychological way of thinking about healing.
Okay, but this is where the story goes from just fascinating ancient history to a completely mind-blowing global mystery. We're about to look at a single spell for healing broken bones that seems to defy time and geography itself. Get ready for this.
So the question is, could a simple chant actually heal a broken bone? The people using the Atharvaveda, they absolutely believed it could. They had a very specific, very powerful hymn just for this. But how did it work? And was it unique to them?
Listen to this. This is the chant from the Atharvaveda. Simple, direct, powerful. It's basically a command to the body to heal itself, to knit itself back together. It's an incredible piece of ancient Indian medical technology. But here's the twist. It wasn't just Indian.
Now, I want you to fast forward hundreds of years and travel thousands of miles west. In 10th century Germany, archaeologists find this text containing what are now called the Merseburg charms. And inside, they find something that is just unbelievable.
Just look at this. On the left, you got the Indian spell. On the right, the dramatic spell, used to heal a horse's leg. The phrasing, it's almost identical. This is not a coincidence. This is proof. This is hard evidence of a shared, deep ancestral technology, a kind of magical inheritance passed down from a common Indo-European ancestor before they ever split apart. It's like a whisper from our collective, deep past.
So the big question is, how did this controversial book of spells, this total outlier, eventually get accepted as the fourth and final Veda? Well, simple. It made itself indispensable. It found a job that no other text could do.
Think about it. In any huge Vedic sacrifice, things can go wrong. A chant gets mumbled, a step is missed, and that's where the Brahmana priest comes in. He sits there in silence, just observing, and he represents the Atharvaveda. If a mistake happens, he uses an Atharvanic mantra to heal the ritual, to patch the error in real time. He's literally the system administrator, and this book of spells, that's his debugging tool.
So, if you're going to take anything away from this, it's these four things. First, the Atharvaveda is the practical Veda, the one for you and me. Second, it's where medicine and magic first got tangled up, giving us the very roots of Ayurveda. Third, its spells show this shocking, deep connection between ancient India and ancient Europe. And most important of all, it's the human Veda. It's all about our fears, our desires, and our absolute will to survive.
When you really boil it down, the Atharvaveda is this incredible testament to the human refusal to be helpless when faced with suffering. It proves that when we're scared, when we're uncertain, our oldest and most powerful instinct is to find a way, to make a spell, to fight back. And it reminds us that hope is and always has been the original magic.